things are changing, the demographics there, and we've seen this with other long-term incumbents. They think they're safe until they're not. That does not mean she's going to lose, but there is good reason to think she could be vulnerable.
Welcome to The Debrief, where we talk to the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the headlines they're covering this week and where the story is going next. I'm Jim Antle, and I'm joined today by magazine managing editor David Mark. And David, the midterm elections next year are still a long way off, but they're clearly top of mind for leaders in both political parties, state legislatures across the country. Where do things stand with the Republicans' sort of effort to defend their very narrow House majority?
Right. The fact that it's effectively at 220 to 215 in Republicans' favor over Democrats shows why they are having state legislatures run by Republicans in states like Texas and probably elsewhere try and change the districts to redraw them to potentially likely draw several more districts for themselves. Democrats in states where they have control, blue states, California, are trying to retaliate. It's a lot harder in those places because state laws in these blue states have independent commissions or other strictures where they can't just do it at the drop of a hat like they can in Texas. So I'd say Republicans have an advantage, but it remains to be seen how this plays out. And it just becomes a real escalation where you might look at it as mutually assured destruction, depending on your point of view. We're not quite sure where this all is going to end up.
So one advantage Republicans have is that there are fewer swing districts than there were in 2018, and they're defending many fewer districts that voted for the Democrats in the presidential election. They have more districts that voted very heavily for Donald Trump, but their majority isn't very big, and that's clearly why they want to pad it through redistricting. So Democrats don't really have to do very much to take the majority back.
Well, that's the thing. These Republican efforts might be tweaking at the margins a bit. Traditionally, these wave elections, if one is to emerge in a bit under 15 months, that is no sure thing that it would happen for Democrats' favor. But we've had enough of them with midterms in the last several decades. It's a plausibility. Republicans in 1994 picked up 54 seats, I think it was, when they won again in 2010. They won 63 seats. Democrats in 2006 won several dozen. I forgot the precise amount. In 2018, I believe it was 40-something seats. Bottom line is, if you're in that territory, even changing the maps isn't going to make that much of a difference.
Sure.
But again, there is no assurance we're going to be anywhere close to that. And more specifically, to your point, after the 2024 elections in the current House, there are only 13 districts out of 435 that have Democratic representatives that President Donald Trump won. Only 3 that have Republican lawmakers, representatives, where Kamala Harris won. One of those in Nebraska is now becoming a target. It'll probably get redrawn. So probably those numbers are even smaller.
So the map for the Senate is considered more favorable for Republicans, and also the majority is somewhat larger. But Democrats have had a few things break in their favor in terms of next year's Senate races, no?
Right. The current Senate majority effectively is 53-47. With the tie-breaking votes, Democrats would have to win 4 seats to gain the majority. That is a tough slog, really under any circumstances these days. But Senate elections have broken more widely, strangely, than even House elections in the last few decades, where if you have a good year for one party or another, their percentage of the chamber's pickup is larger, even if not in absolute numbers, not to get too far into the math. Meaning, when it goes, usually these swing seats to the degree you can call them that, go one way or the other. Democrats' biggest pickup is in North Carolina, potential pickup. The biggest opportunity, I should say, where there's an open seat. Former Democratic Governor Roy Cooper is effectively the Democratic nominee. He's won several times statewide, twice for governor, 4 times for state attorney general in at least a red-leaning state. And that has been kind of the white whale for Democrats for a while in North Carolina. If they can't win a Senate seat in North Carolina in this environment, they ought to take that off the table. That's the most obvious one. The most intriguing one to me is the state of Maine, where Republican Senator Susan Collins has held that seat pretty easily since she first won it in 1996. Every 6 years, each election cycle she's up, Democrats take a hard swing at it and usually come up pretty short. But things are changing, the demographics there, and we've seen this with other long-term incumbents. They think they're safe until they're not. That does not mean she's going to lose, but there is good reason to think she could be vulnerable.
And the polling in that race in 2020 turned out to be very unreliable. Collins was losing in basically all of the polls. One ended up winning by nearly 9 points. That will probably color some people's analysis of this year's race.
Right. And she won that as Joe Biden was winning the state of Maine over Donald Trump that year. So she really had a strong pickup this year. I would think the biggest, most tangible effect is it's scaring off potential Democratic challengers. Democrats are leaning hard on the sitting Democratic governor, Janet Mills, to run for that seat. And she's actually giving it more of a look than she had previously had intended to. She is 77 years old, which by Senate standards is not exactly ancient, but not exactly the average age of a freshman, especially for not a lot of female freshmen that have come in. Doesn't mean can't happen. It's entirely plausible. Funny things happen in politics these days. But it's not who Democratic Senate recruiters would usually target. But she's a well-known vote getter in Maine. She stood up to President Donald Trump in person over the issue of trans sports participation and many others. They had a bit of a White House conflagration, a bit of an accusatory session there. So they'd really like her to win. I suspect she'll jump in the end.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
You can read David and the rest of our magazine team's coverage at washingtonexaminer.com.